I see everybody having access to diagnostics in their own home, whether they're prescribed by a physician or they're direct to consumer, they're accessing them in their own home. I see them, being heavily managed by AI, whether that's, making recommendations on what to test next or their tests are being developed using AI. I see, people realizing that having lab work and lab information is a very big portal into your health. It's a vital sign of its own. They need to have more access to that. So I really see diagnostics becoming a much bigger play than they are currently.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Executive Intelligence, where business leadership meets artificial intelligence. And I'm your host, Dagan Davis. Today, we have a guest by the name of Brianna Wronko-Stevens. She is the founder and CEO of Hue DX. Brianna, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a really big question for the entire audience here is what exactly do you do? What is Hue DX? Could you explain that to us?
Yeah. So for our enterprise clients, we are a system that employs AI to take their biochemistry or their special sauce and launch it as a commercialized diagnostic, either at the point of care or direct to consumer. And we do that through a computerized software that uses AI to make the process of launching that diagnostic about 75% faster and 75% cheaper. To the rest of our audience, we produce our own direct to consumer diagnostics. We're the first fully quantitative smartphone based ovulation tracker, as well as we're launching our HUWELL line later this summer, which will be generalized health and wellness information for the consumer in their own home.
Okay. So is there a way you could simplify that? With what problem are you solving?
We solve the problem of why you still have to go to the lab to get your lab work done and then wait days for it to come back. We help people who are developing things in your own home so that you don't ever have to leave and you don't ever have to wait to know what's wrong.
Okay. So are you partnering with other companies that are selling the kits, or you guys have your own at-home kits that people can use?
Both. So we partner with developers and manufacturers to help them transition their kits to a direct consumer or a point of care model. And then we also have our own kits. So under the brands Hue Fertility and Hue Well.
Okay, great. And then you are the founder of the company. What got you into this field, and then also what made you want to start your own company?
Yeah, so I'm a bioengineer by trade, and I was working on microfluidic research as in the immune system and understanding how physical trauma impacts your immune system. But I realized that anything to do with my research was going to take decades to come to fruition and impact patients. And I said, well, what can I do with microfluidics or very tiny plumbing systems that we use in diagnostics oftentimes to impact people now? And I was very impacted by an internship I held working with a local clinic that focused on the HIV community in Philadelphia. And I realized that, getting information and diagnostic results at the point of care during a visit really would impact people's outcomes significantly, not only for their own anxiety and their own well being and their own ease, but we could make clinical decisions on the matter of minutes versus weeks. And so I said, well, let me apply my research to this area. We came up with a prototype and I said, well, I'll publish it and I'll go back to pharmaceuticals. That's where I was headed to. And I wanted to go to med school. And someone, a mentor of mine really impacted me and said, you can publish it and it will sit on a shelf and it won't help any patients. And that's what you're trying to do. Why don't you try and help the patients? So I ended up starting the company. We were formerly known as Group K Diagnostics. It was a name I kind of pulled out of a hat when I was trying to formalize the company and get started. And here we are about 9 years later with commercial products, commercial software, and we're really impacting people.
That's awesome. So, you saw the gap in the timing that it takes, and you're just trying to speed all of that up. Um,
Exactly. And, we tried to make our own point of care diagnostics for a while at first. We realized it was so arduous and time consuming to build your own reader, your own hardware, to iterate all these different types of diagnostics. Doctors need it all in one system. Patients need it all in one system. Customers, consumers need it all in one system. And there wasn't any way for people to launch it on one system. So that's what we're enabling through our enterprise software.
okay. So are they just connecting this data with your software? And how does that work?
Yeah, so developers and consumer and manufacturers, they often have an assay. Like we're working with the university right now, they have an assay, but they don't have any way to read that assay or to put it in the point of care, right? There's really complex manufacturing lines and all that kind of stuff. So what we do is we take their visual colorimetric data, it gets imported into our Hue tool system, and Hue tools gives them a variety of like pre-regulatory feedback. Is their assay specific enough? Is it going to give accurate enough results? Is it going to give results over a large enough range, right? For people who are well, people who are sick, maybe on both sides of the spectrum, right? For ranges. It lets them organize their data. It gives them that instant feedback through AI and machine learning. And then our real special sauce is you have to launch that colorimetric diagnostic, right? So not only do we have our own manufacturing systems ready to go, we have our own smartphone app. So they're not developing a costly reader, they're just tapping into what people have in their pocket already, and we solve the biggest problem with smartphones is every smartphone camera looks a little different, even amongst iPhones, and it perceives light differently, and color is just a reflection of light. So we have a normalization card that enables us to say, okay, we're controlling for the phone, we're controlling for the lighting, we're controlling for all external variables. We're just focused on the one variable that matters, that diagnostic. We can give a result back. So not only do we help them develop their test faster, we also eliminate their need to develop a manufacturing pipeline or develop a reader or a smartphone app. We do that all and we do it better than our competitors, if I can say that.
Okay. Are these labs not using AI?
No, no. I'd say that our scientific field has been very resistant in a lot of ways to using AI. They're worried about their jobs being replaced, as most of us are, right? But I have to say that nothing is going to replace the tinkering that someone does at the tiny microfluidic scale, or diagnostic piece, and nothing will replace some of the know-how that people who have worked with fluid mechanics or diagnostics for years and years and years. There's just certain things that you have to feel the vibe of the the paper to know, right? But what AI can do is it can eliminate our bias. It can provide suggestions of things that we might not be thinking about. It can give actual factual feedback on colors. It can allow us to see patterns that we're not seeing ourselves. So, color is a very wide space, actually. It's not just, we think of RGB when you're on Microsoft Word, or maybe people have seen HSV on Microsoft PowerPoint and things like that. There's tons of more color spaces out there. And what AI enables us to do is sort through those rapidly, see what might fit best, run tons of models in the background, and then fit the best calibration model at the end of the day. So really, it does a lot more.
Yeah, and I can see how, on the healthcare side for someone who's really just trying to get their labs done and get those results back, especially for doctors to try to get those back fast so that they can make a diagnosis, that can save a ton of time. So speed, one thing is something that you are knocking it out of the park for. But and so how does the actual technology differ than the traditional testing? Outside of speed or AI, is there anything else included?
Yeah, so we're the first platform that enables developers to launch their diagnostics on us, right? Like other competitor platforms, they're enclosed. They only launch their own tests on that platform. We allow anyone to launch on our platform. So we aim to be the place where all of the diagnostics converge. That doctors aren't having a million systems in their lab. We're doing glucose, we're doing fertility, we're doing infectious disease, we're doing fluorescence, we're doing all these complex tests in one platform, on one app, in one system. And that eliminates, benchtop space, which is really important in a physician's office and more important in a consumer's home, right? They don't want to have a bulky device sitting there. So really, yes, we are speed of the test, speed of developing the test, getting to the point of care better, right? We have a better point of care system, and also, eliminating so need for so many readers.
Okay. So I was just thinking back to, getting labs when I was in high school and then now till now. And it doesn't seem like the process or the speed has really changed. And so now talking to you today, seeing that that can really change and innovate, why does this take so long? Why does it have to wait for someone like you to come along and make that change?
Yeah, well, I think the problem we've seen up until this point is it's really time consuming to build your own hardware and your own reader and your own system for the one diagnostic your company specializes in, right? So, by the time we started out launching a liver function test, and by the time we had gotten to the end of developing all the hardware and all the system, and we were about to launch that, we would have had to go all the way back 3 or 4 years to the beginning and do it again. And we only specialize in that one little area, right? So democratizing the system, having an open access platform as per se for people to launch on really changes that. I think it's just a model that, using AI has opened up people to that, right? They're used to, you know, Chat GPT can help me out, Claude can help me out. I can now outsource to other areas to help me out. Well, Hue Tools is another AI platform. It can help me out. And it can help me out specifically in my diagnostics research. We aim to be the AI for diagnostics companies, right? That has all that specialized knowledge and information and color spaces and whatnot. So I think it's, first mover advantage for sure. We had our own trials developing diagnostics. We know what diagnostic companies need to use and what they want it built. But it's also just, we have a phenomenal team who comes up with a new idea every day and it keeps us fresh.
Okay. And then I know, AI is great. It should not be the one giving the diagnosis, but it can certainly be the one or the platform that you work upon that gives you all the data, which is what you guys are doing is what I understand. And so then you're giving that extra data and resources to the doctors or to the healthcare professionals in order to give that diagnosis and figure out what's next.
Sort of. So AI never touches our patient or our quantitative results that come out, right? So what we use AI for is developing the actual diagnostic product. Because, the FDA can get
Okay.
iffy when you catch, like, if AI is giving the quantitative result, it's not giving a diagnosis per se, but it's giving the quantitative result. That can be a little iffy. We use locked machine learned models to do that. But what AI does for us is it helps us develop the best model. And then once we find that, we lock it. And that's what now enables us to ensure that model is not running away from us. It's not drifting over time. It's not giving results that you want to see. But we use it in the development process very heavily.
Okay, that makes sense. And then so is that going over time? Is that just going to get faster and faster for you?
Yes, it will. As we add more features, as we run more tests through the platform, for certainly, I think it's gotten faster. It's gotten better. We just had a meeting this morning to add more features onto Q Tools, so we're really excited about.
Okay, great. And then what lessons overall have you learned working in this space? What's something that people don't think about that, may surprise someone?
I think people enter the software space saying, "Oh, well, it's quick. In a year or 2 years, I have a product that's up and running. AI even faster." You've seen so many AI companies spin up really quickly. That I think when you're talking about medical software, or you're talking about diagnostic software, it's a bit of a slower process. So you have to really put the work in, and then you reap it at the end.
Okay. And then in general with healthcare, where do you see the biggest opportunities? Obviously, these things are going what you're working on, for example, is just speeding things up. I don't know really where that's going to correlate with the money making side of healthcare. Obviously, it's a business. All businesses have to make money. So where do you see the biggest opportunities in the future?
Yeah, I think right now we see a lot of people wanting to take charge of their own health. And they want to have the information themselves. They want to have the data themselves. They are tired of the bureaucratic mess of working through referrals and hospital systems and things like that. So where I see AI really going into play is, in democratizing diagnostics and democratizing access to information and understanding your own health, organizing that information, pulling it all together, synthesizing it. I'd love to see a portal one day where you could enter in all your information. It kind of keeps it there and suggests what you might need to do next, whether that's a blood test or it's a lifestyle change or a nutrition platform. I really would like to see that happen.
Yeah, that would be really cool to just have everything all in one place like that. Now, with your software, if a repeat customer comes in, I know you're not interacting with the customers or anyone that's coming in and doing these tests, but if an information comes in that is a different test from the one 6 months ago, Are you guys able to measure that, and compare those with, the manufacturers and the providers that you're working with?
So we do. So most of our tests are direct to consumer right now, and they have access to a graph that charts all their results over time. So that we can't say like, oh, so for Hue Fertility, for example, we test LH. We're about to launch FSH this summer. We can't say like, oh, you might have PCOS or oh, you might, be in perimenopause. What we can do is we can give them all that information, and then we can give them the education of what their numbers should be. Right. So, below our LH values, we have, a peer review documented range of what they should be at. Right. So if they're outside that range, we say, hey, you might want to recommend talk to your doctor.
Okay. And then
I think that the healthcare consumer is very informed nowadays, and they have access to AI too. So they can ask, what might be going on there as well.
yeah, that's very true. It's all over the place. Well, we're gonna come right back after a commercial break, and we will continue this conversation. But stand by, and we're gonna cut to a quick commercial break. Hi, everybody. Dagan here. If you're seeing me talking to you right now, that means that this commercial ad spot is vacant and it's available for your company in your area. It will only show to your area. So please contact us today at daganmedia.com if you're interested in becoming a sponsor. And we're back to our episode of Executive Intelligence with Brianna Wronko-Stevens. Brianna, thanks for joining us again. I know you did mention earlier that that there was a little bit of development going on in the consumer diagnostics. So I'm just curious. Do you have anything else to add in that?
Yeah, so consumer diagnostics has really, hit big. People want to know their own data. They want to develop it themselves. They want to understand what's going on in their health. And I think, AI has really taken on a big, a big role in this space as people are, looking at shotgun sequencing of their microbiome, of their genome, of all different things, right? And they want to understand their health more. And the only way to process those large amounts of information is to use AI. So I think we see that not only in how we develop our test set at Hue DX, but also how people are processing these large swaths of information to get some actionable result or maybe map their, data to some actionable result that they can do in the wellness space. So I think we're really seeing AI step into this field of consumer healthcare, consumer diagnostics in particular. And people just want to have more information about themselves. A really interesting thing that we've seen recently is people are looking at cortisol data on themselves. So we're actually set to launch our cortisol diagnostic at the end of July 2026 this year, because they want to know like how is their stress impacted by blue light at night or by how they wake up in the morning or if they work out in the morning versus if they look at their computer screen the first thing. How are all those things impacting them and impacting their cortisol, which is like your energy? A lot of people are familiar with melatonin and take melatonin at night. Cortisol is the opposite of that. It helps wake you up. But yeah, we definitely see a lot of that right now. People want more information.
So for the cortisol testing, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. You would just take 5 saliva samples, one when you wake up, one 30 minutes after waking, two that are after activities of your choice throughout the day, and then one at bedtime. And that curve, so we do keep all that data in our app, and you can see your curve throughout the day tells you where is your cortisol spiking. You want it to spike when you want to be woken up, right? You don't want it to spike at bedtime when you're trying to go to sleep. And it helps people get a better rhythm and understand how activities impact them and make wiser choices.
Why would it spike when you're going to sleep?
Oh, caffeine, messed up circadian rhythm, your lighting, maybe you didn't get enough sun, workouts. There's a whole variety of things, other conditions, but a lot of it is lifestyle.
Okay. And then have you seen, so is that just a swab in your mouth and it's pretty
Yep,
easy to do
it's
on your
it's
own?
tiny. You just kind of like it's like a lollipop stick with a sponge on the end, and you just kind of suck on it, drop it into a little vial, and then two drops on the device, and you're take a picture with your phone. You're off to the races. You get your result.
Okay, so it's nothing crazy intrusive with sticking something down your throat or up your nose or
Oh
anything like that.
no, no, nothing like
Okay.
that. It's literally like the spongy lollipop.
Awesome. So, well, I mean, that sounds great, but I've had some things where, at home tests. You bring them home and they're not very, very attractive or exciting to do. And so, have you seen that in that space? And is that why you guys have worked to develop something so simple?
Yeah, I think people, harken back to COVID and seeing, swabs up their nose way too far. Or there was at one point in time this like whole little PCR element that you could buy that was like, I think $100 if you could find it in the store. And that's not really practical for a lot of people. So, at the end of the day, we are confined by where biomarkers show up in the body. But we try and use urine and saliva first because they're the least invasive, and then after that, we'll use a finger prick. And we always try and
Okay.
keep everything, on one device. We don't have any kind of complicated steps. For infectious disease, we do have it. You need a heater to do infectious disease testing at the point of care a lot of the times, but ours is reusable across tests and diagnostics. So we try and keep everything as streamlined and simple as possible. And you got to find the virus where it meets you. So I'm afraid for COVID and rhinovirus and the flu, that is your nose. But there's a lot of new technology that let you swab the inside of your nostril, not the ones from pre-COVID where it was like all the way up into your brain half the time.
Yeah.
And I'll say that's a joke, not really into your brain. But it was quite
It
uncomfortable from what
feels
I
like it
remember.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's good that, not only is there innovation in the technology and utilizing AI, but there's also, kind of that human innovation of trying to make things a little bit more comfortable when you're utilizing these test kits at home. So that's great to hear. One thing I want to ask you, I'm an entrepreneur as well. I'm curious. You've been building a biotech company, and that's I would imagine, very, very different than a regular tech company. So, could you just kind of give us a little bit of, your insight on your journey and what it's been like for you?
Yeah, well, there's a lot more three-letter words that are mean regulations when it comes to advancing healthcare and biotech, right? So you have to know those really well and understand that they're there to keep people safe, and we want to keep patients safe too. We want to keep the general consumer informed about what they're doing, and we're there to work with those organizations, not consider them, fighting against us. And the FDA has really come far in their wellness regulations and trying to open up the space to consumers getting more access to their health. But also we got a lot more operations and change control. I had to answer someone's questions this morning internally, and they were like, "Well, we don't want to make too much change too fast." And I was like, "When I worked in pharma, you had to go through three control boards to move a printer. I think we'll be okay if we change a spreadsheet." So it's
Yeah.
certainly got its hoops to jump through and its things, but for a lot of us, biotech is all we know, and we consider the software side a little bit of a break for ourselves.
Yeah, and it does make sense, right? There should be a lot of regulation and being careful of any kind of innovations or things like that. And certainly when it comes to things that you put in your body or things that you're using around your body, but also the technology, right? Because you want to make sure that the data is not being changed or manipulated in any way, and it's safe data, right? Because we're using that for something very important. Was that one of your biggest earlier challenges when you started the company, of just making sure that you were compliant with everything?
Yeah, no, compliance is fairly easy, and I'd say it's a very high importance to us that we support our claims. We publish a lot of peer-reviewed papers. We publish our scientific data transparently for all of our direct-to-consumer diagnostics. We encourage people who use our platform to do the same thing. There's been a lot of rumbles in the diagnostic space recently about another app or not another app, another product that supposedly can track hormone values based off of a physical hardware device without tapping into any kind of like bodily fluid. And there's no peer reviewed studies, and we're all saying that's not right. So I'd say the hardest thing inside the company is putting the work in to do it right. It takes a long time to get enough data to do a peer review paper and then to get that peer review paper published. But that's the right way to do it because you have other scientists who have no affiliation with you checking your work. The right thing to do is register with the FDA to go through FDA clearance if that's required for your product, because again, you have other scientists checking your work.
Okay. And then did you seek investors to get started?
We did. We've raised about $9.5 million in funding, mostly from, angel groups, physician investors, and other high net worth individuals who have a vested interest in the space.
Wow, yeah, that's great. So what advice going through this journey so far? What advice would you have for other people in your space that would want to just not write a paper and have it published and have it sit on sit for a while before even coming into fruition, and just want to start a company in the same manner that you did?
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, jump with both feet first. You can't be one foot in, one foot out. Know that you're gonna go on a wild ride. I think of a water slide that takes you loop de loop in all different directions. But at the end of the day, when you get that product published and it's in people's hands, they're using it to impact their health. That's like something you've never seen before. So it's a pretty. I'm blessed to work with some incredible people to have an incredible experience. It's been a really interesting journey. Is it the journey that I thought I would have when I started it though? No. So be prepared for the surprises and buckle up.
Yeah, that's great. I would say it never turns out the way you want, but hopefully in the right positive direction or a positive direction. And so, what I'd like to talk about here, lastly, is just the future. You've been in this space for a while. Now you're running your own company. Let's just talk diagnostics in general. Where do you see the future and this heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I see everybody having access to diagnostics in their own home, whether they're prescribed by a physician or they're direct to consumer, they're accessing them in their own home. I see them, being heavily managed by AI, whether that's, making recommendations on what to test next or their tests are being developed using AI. I see, people realizing that having lab work and lab information is a very big portal into your health. It's a vital sign of its own and they need to have more access to that. So I really see diagnostics becoming a much bigger play than they are currently. I think we've seen that with Function Health, with Jevity, Let's Get Checked, all those places really trying to push direct to consumer in people's homes. But we've not seen the turnaround be truly point of care. And I think what QDX brings is that to the table.
Okay, and then would this involve apps on your phone, or would it be separate devices, or what are we talking about here when it's the
Yeah.
at-home diagnostics?
So our goal is that people don't have, big hardware sitting on their table, that they're able to get one of our devices, which is as simple as a paper strip or a small clover that fits in the palm of your hand, and their smartphone, along with our Q card, which is basically like a credit card. It's the size of a credit card and it allows for lighting normalization and just a small, tiny portable heater so they're able to test for infectious diseases. We see lots of things on the rise, whether it's the next, knock on wood, pandemic, or we had the scare about hantavirus, and we see STIs massively on the rise here in the U.S. So I think it's important that every American start to have a little portable laboratory in their home. So a smartphone, a heater that fits in the palm of your hand, and tests that can be shipped in a standard envelope to your door. Sounds pretty great.
That does sound pretty great. Just to kind of have that peace of mind, right? I mean, you touched on the stress earlier and the anxiety that comes along with just waiting for results. So that'd be great to have something a little more instant.
100%. What we really do for our enterprise business is democratize who can get on a platform like that. And so we hope that we can pool tons of different companies to come on and really make, diagnostics across the breadth of the healthcare spectrum.
Yeah, yeah, and that's great to hear. I know, people that are listening right now are probably, excited about the future of that and not having to go somewhere, just to get your labs done in general, and wait and go through that long process and then wait again. So yeah, that's great. Well, Brianna, before we wrap up, I like to before the end of every show, just kind of give you a platform, whatever you'd like to talk about, whatever you'd like to get out there. Not to put you on the spot here, but I always give this little bit of time at the end to my guests to, just say whatever you feel that you want to get out there in the world.
Sure, thank you. I would just say, follow along with us on Instagram at Hue Fertility and Hue Well. Those are our two direct consumer brands, as well as our parent brand, which is Hue DX. You can just find those at Hue Fertility, at Hue Well, at Hue DX. Hue is spelled HUE. And then beyond that, we have our cortisol and our FSH products launching in July of 26. So you can find it directly at our website. You can find it on Amazon. But we're really excited to get those out to people who need them.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate the conversation. And just for people, if you don't know, we always put the information that was talked about here in the description. So if you want to get a hold of Brianna or her company, you could certainly do so in the description below the video. But other than that, thanks again for joining us. And we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Executive Intelligence. We will see you guys next time. Hi, everybody. Dagan here. If you're seeing me talking to you right now, that means that this commercial ad spot is vacant and it's available for your company in your area. It will only show to your area. So please contact us today at daganmedia.com if you're interested in becoming a sponsor.